from the Manic Street Preachers has joined us. Thanks for coming in.
Hello.
And dragging yourself out of bed after being out on the Raz last night. How long have you actually lived in London now, James?
Oh, okay. But since Christmas, basically, you know. But it's like, it's kind of like a £20 a week of rent, so kind of it's like I couldn't really turn down the invitation, really.
Right. I mean, you know, you're a fan of London. I mean, obviously you must be living here. I mean, or are you here for sort of other reasons?
I don't really, you know, care anymore, really. I mean, the rest of the band hate London, and kind of I'm probably like the largest empty vessel, kind of like out of the rest of us, and kind of like I'm not as spiteful in my kind of like outlook on life anymore.
So I mean the other three, I mean, what, they're all sort of still based back in Wales?
Yeah, they all live back in the valleys and stuff. And like Sean lives in Bristol with his girlfriend. Yes.
What about for you when you sort of like get to go back there? I mean, now, you know, is it a bit weird or?
No, it's kind of like, it's no big deal at all, really. I mean, kind of like, I see some people I used to go to school with, and that's it. And like, unless you take that or something, you know, nothing means anything to anybody, I don't think, really. I'm really honest now, it's just kind of like, you know, pop music doesn't sell on like the terms that you used to, does it? So like, you know, the basic rule used to be if you're in the top 20, kind of you'd get mobbed, but it isn't like that anymore, is it?
Well, what sort of reaction do you kind of sort of like get from people? I mean, you know, as far as the band are concerned, you know, you've never been sort of backwards in coming forwards about, you know, sort of like, you know, other bands and what you think of them. I mean, you know, what do people sort of say when they come up to you or whatever? I mean, do you kind of get people coming up and being aggressive sometimes because some of the things that you guys have said in the past, or?
Not so much anymore, really. I think kind of like, you know, people have got people in like, you know, bands have got a bit of like jobs with attitude these days, you know, well, you know, no matter what you said about me once, they like, you know, no matter what you said once, you know, that record was good, or like, you know, I admire you for doing that, and everybody's like very diplomatic these days, you know, there was never any fisticuffs involved in like any of this slagging off, which is always quite disappointed in, really.
What was it like backstage last weekend at Reading?
It was alright, you know, it's just smoozer boozer, really, you know, it's nothing special, is it?
Well, before we sort of talk about Reading, I mean, let's, you know, obviously ask the obvious question at the beginning. I mean, how's Richie at the moment?
He's much better. You know, I saw him yesterday and all that kind of stuff. He was playing Debussy in his room. Some kind of therapy for him, I think. He finds it quite soothing. And that's it. You know, he's much better. He's be back for the October tour. And like,
and that's definite? That's
definite, yeah. And yeah, we're doing a tour of France just before that, and he's back for that too. Like, he's coming out next week, and we like going to rehearse in the country for like a week, and then just go to France and then do the British tour and Europe and blah blah blah. So he's out next week, basically.
I mean, when did, you know, the rest of the band sort of like, you know, notice that, you know, things weren't sort of like quite right with him?
There was. I
mean, was there kind of like a moment where, you know, maybe sort of like the rest of you, the three of you, kind of like had a sort of chat with each other and said, right, you know, this isn't right?
Well, no, we just always had like a basic precipice of like kind of like, you know, we never really questioned what each other do on a basic. We always like exist on our own levels, you know, because like, you know, we never really like censor each other in any kind of way. So kind of like when when he kind of used to like, you know, mutilate himself to like certain degrees and things, you know, kind of like I basically accepted his first explanation, and that was it was the only way he could like let certain things out. It was the only way he could externalize, as the Americans say, and you know, and yeah, we accepted that for a long, long time. But it just went past to the point where he was doing him any good, if that makes any sense. So it just got kind of like to the point where he was just like a basic illness rather than a release, I think. And that was, you know, and that was up until just probably a week before he went into hospital, I suppose. But only small signs, nothing that would smash you straight in the face, you know. It was much more subtle than that. I mean, if you could believe that.
I mean, what sort of like effect did it have on the sort of like, you know, the rest of you though, you know, sort of seeing him kind of like go down in weight so dramatically?
That's not the kind of thing that really ever affects me that much, to be honest, because like he's always been kind of like pretty much a featherweight, you know. And it was the other things, just more his emotional state more than anything, really, or just not being able to find worth in anything, you know. Just couldn't find worth in enough, if you know what I mean. Like, just couldn't find worth in anything, therefore. And just kind of like, it's just basically when you talk to somebody, I suppose, you can just tell that they're not on an even keel, I suppose, really.
So what's his sort of like frame of mind now then? I mean, kind of positive and just raring, you know, to kind of get back in there?
Oh, he's having a laugh in the hospital, the bastard. It's cushy down there, it's nice food and everything, it's a nice room. Nah, he's okay. You know, it's kind of, he's just like, you know, he just wants to, you know, just like, you know, just exist on a normal level for a while and not live between extremes, you know.
All right, well, there's loads to talk about. We've got right through until 4 o'clock. Let's play the current single, The Manic Street Preachers on GLO, and this is Revo. Gary Crowley and James Dean Bradfield from the Manic Street Preachers, bossing the airways right through until 4 o'clock this afternoon. Revol, the current single. So what was Reading like for you to sort of place, you know, a stripped down version? I mean, is this the first time that you've played as a three-piece?
No, it was the fourth time. We played Tea in the Park in Glasgow. We played a festival in Holland. We went on just after 2 Unlimited. We did Cologne and we did Reading. So it's 4, I suppose.
Right, so it wasn't that kind of like weird.
No,
then?
it wasn't that traumatic, but it was like, it seemed like the biggest gig that we did, you know, as a three-piece, you know. But it's just such a massive stage. It was just, you know, quite hard, really. You know, it's just like, kind of like, no matter what, you kind of like, you know, Richie wasn't the best guitarist, but he does make a lot of noise on stage. So
Yeah.
it just felt really kind of quite skeletal, really. But, you know, it was okay. I quite enjoyed Reading. It was okay, actually.
I mean, it must be a little bit weird, you know. I mean, you guys have been together for a long time now, you know, not to sort of have him like to the sort of left of you or whatever. I mean, it's, you know, it must have been a bit odd.
Yeah, I just had a, you know, basic feeling that kind of like, you know, we weren't really catering for our female section of the audience, really.
You held up your end wonderfully.
Yeah, for the boys, yeah.
What was going through your mind before going on stage? Anything in particular, or just sort of raring to get out there?
No, there's nothing goes through your mind. You just like, you know, you're just scared, that's all. But, you know, it's okay, it's all right, it's no big deal.
And you enjoyed it as well?
Yeah, I did. Enjoyed it more in Glastonbury, because Glastonbury, it's harder to gauge, and it just seems a bit grubby. But, like, you know, Reading, just like, it's a cleaner, kind of indie schmindy kind of vibe, so, and it just seemed a bit younger.
Did you sort of stick around for the rest of the weekend?
Yeah, I schmoozed for one night, yeah.
And did you see anybody impress you particularly?
No, I liked Ice Cube for like 2 songs. I thought Ice Cube for 2 songs was really good. He looked well hard and stuff, but I didn't really like anything else, really. But I only saw, you know, the bands on our day. I didn't see anything else, you know.
Right.
I don't really like seeing bands at festivals, because there's no like mystery to it, I don't think, really. Like, you know, there's no like, bands usually like use all their cloaking devices, like to seem really good, you know, and that kind of, they haven't got the added benefits of that at a festival, so I don't really like watching bands at festivals.
Let's talk about this album, the third album, The Holy Bible. Why the title, first of all?
It's just a sarcastic riposte to religion, cause and effect, all that kind of stuff. Just like, yeah, kind of there are more religious wars going on in the world than at any point in this world's history. So kind of that was one reason. And we just like took like the 10 Commandments, and they've all been contradicted in Western terms, or failed in Western terms. So kind of like we were pompous enough to call the album the Holy Bible, because it was our divine truth kind of thing. And like, you know, we always start, when we record an album, we always start with a title. It's like an essay for us.
What, right from the very beginning?
Yeah, we always start with the title of the album. It's just like, you know, doing an exam for us, really. So like, you know.
Where does this album, do you think, you know, as far as you're concerned, James, kind of find where, you know, the Manics are at the moment?
I don't really look at things on a grand scale like that, really. Just kind of like, we just didn't like the last album that much. Felt like our language had been coerced, kind of thing. And we always thought we spoke best in, like, you know, sound bites, you know, because on the last album, it's kind of like, it was quite self-obsessed, the last album. It was just a bit wussy, really. And so kind of like, so we just, you know, my favourite songs on the new album just sound like 3-minute news stories, you know, well-informed news stories. So.
In fact, talking about sort of like sound bites, you've got lots of sort of audio snippets starting off a lot of the tracks. Who actually sort of found those? I mean, was that a group thing?
No, it's like Richie and Nick kind of in charge of those little kind of things. It's just like, most of them like were authors. It's like J.G. Ballard and Halbert Soon, Halbert, you know, who wrote, what's his name? Who wrote Last Exit to Brooklyn. Halbert Senior Jr., is it?
I don't know.
Yeah, Hubert Salbert Jr., that's right, yeah. And like, and there's things like, it's one of the mothers of like, one of the victims of the Yorkshire Ripper on a track of Archives of Pain, just things like that.
What have you made of the reviews of the album so far?
I think a lot of them have been quite dated, really. Like, especially like reviews like in Q and things, kind of
dated in what respect?
Just kind of like, just saying like punky pop and things, you know. I see us, on this album, I see us as being quite a modern band, really. No, I don't see us as being that retro, even though it's guitars, drums and bass and things. I see it as being like quite, you know, quite modern, really. Not mod, but quite modern.
You got to get that word in when I'm interviewing you, haven't you? Let's play another track off the album. This is going to be the next single, apparently, yeah?
Yeah.
She is Suffering. New album from the Manic Street Preachers, The Holy Bible. James Dean Bradfield is my special guest. I know that the way that you guys sort of write, I mean, it's you and Sean that looks after the music side. I mean, are there roles as defined as that? And then Nicky and Richie do the lyrics?
Yeah, they're pretty much kind of like, you know, we always called it a positive division of labour kind of thing, you know. Yeah, and it's like, it's just very you know, kind of we never really break those parameters really.
I mean, has there been sort of occasions when, you know, say Richie and Nicky have handed you lyrics and you haven't felt comfortable about singing them?
No, not really. I mean, kind of, even if you get to that point, you can just like call it, you know, cheap voyeurism from my point of view, you know. So it's all right, you know. So like, I never have any like, you know, even if there was something that I didn't really want to sing, I would still sing it from that point of view, just from like being a voyeur, man.
Right.
You know, but it's never come to that.
Okay. Well, listen, time's caught up with us, but we've got 4 picture disc versions of the CD for the new album, and also 4 sets of Revo double packs to be won. 071 224 2000 is the number to dial. James whistling in the background there. You've got a question for them.
Name the lady who painted the artwork on the cover of the Holy Bible.
071 224 2000. James, thanks for coming by this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
We're going to leave you with Archives of Pain.
I wonder who you think you are.